we're going to go out of order a little bit because the board needs to reorganize. But I'm sure I speak for everyone. I'd like to welcome Tim, Steve, and Kevin to our ranks. Thank you very much for both running and obviously getting elected. First order of business, we're going to skip down to C under Planning Board Business and Policies, and that is the election of chairman, vice chairman, and clerk. So I'll open up the floor to nominations for the position of chairman.
I'd like to nominate you, Joe, unless you decline if you want or accept.
I'd just soon decline.
Okay.
Other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Beatty as chairman.
I'm in Joe's position. I mean, we got a lot of engineering staff on this board now that I'd like to see an engineer be our chairman, but
Well, rather than nominations, do we have
I do.
volunteers?
Yeah.
Boy, my role as interim chairman is off to a huge success here. You know, as a matter of running a meeting, I'm comfortable doing that. Again, from an engineering perspective, I think don't want to speak for Ed, but I'll speak for myself and perhaps Ed. We were somewhat spoiled with the presence of Joanne, both for numbers of years that she served, but as importantly was her technical background. Neither one of us we have some experience in terms of being on the planning board. We don't have the experience from a professional and technical background, but.
And I think that's what the rest of us probably lack, is the time and experience and knowledge of the town and the workings and how the, how the board interacts and that history of, being on the planning board.
There's also something to be said for the role of the vice chair as well, though, so. In that.
Well, there's no substitute for actual experience on the planning board, regardless of any other, town committees or boards that you've been on in the past, because the planning board's unique, and, the knowledge and the background, and just, even going through a year of meetings is far more experience than three of us have. And the reason why I initially mentioned Joe is because this is such a young board. I did some simple math, and Joe has more experience in his 8 years on the planning board than the rest of us 6 combined. So he's kind of a logical appointment as the chairperson. It would be nice if Ed was the vice chair, but don't want to force anyone to do something that they don't want to do.
Well, let me be candid. I have a couple of misgivings about being a chairman. Not that being a chairman concerns me. It's that I've got if you will, a little project that I've been working on for the last year or so that Ed will remember. I missed some of the meeting, as will Steve and Frank. I missed some of the meetings, and I'll have to miss some of the meetings as well during this summer. If there's a special permit that requires either my watching a video or having to attend to make sure that someone can qualify for a supermajority vote, I'll make that, I'll make that effort to be here. But I will be missing some meetings. So, again, that I think taints my eligibility for chairmanship. If that's okay with you folks, I just want to be upfront about that.
If we had Ed as a backup where he could fill in when you're gone, if it's the summertime or whatever, I'd be completely comfortable with that.
And I don't recall, was it an extended stretch of time?
No, it was, I tried not to miss
Yeah.
consecutive meetings.
Yeah, right.
But, again, I also try to attend, if I'm on a board, I try to be here.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Anyway, I've given my confessions, so, if no one's interested in doing it, I'll serve as chairman for a year and see what happens. So, I guess, let me reopen the Florida nominations. So,
I will nominate Mr. Fernandez as chairman.
is there a
Second.
second? Any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor of Joe Fernandez as chairman?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, that'll
Thank
work.
thank you very much, Joe,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll bail you out in a year.
Yeah. Learn quick. Vice chairman, open the floor to nominations for vice chairman.
I'll nominate Mr. Beatty as vice
Second.
chair.
Second.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, motions are closed, the nominations are closed. All in favor of Ed Beatty as vice chairman, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then Ed is elected, and then as clerk. Nominations.
What is the roles and duties of clerk?
In the off chance, although it seems to be an off chance now, at times the clerk has taken minutes, but it also at times the clerk signs certain documents that represent the actions of the planning board. I don't think it's a lot of heavy lifting. Who served as clerk before?
It was Mr. Barrows,
Okay.
and then he resigned, so I don't know what he actually did as role of clerk.
I hope that wasn't the cause for his resignation, but,
I'd be open to it if, but I'm.
I mean, I never saw anything and, I never noticed any actions during a planning board meeting that required,
I've only had the chair sign things, so if the clerk
Yeah.
signs, that's great too.
yeah.
well, Steve is willing to serve as clerk.
I nominate Mr. Steve Hornsby for the role of clerk for the Norton Town Planning Board.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, declare the nominations closed. All in favor of Steve Hornsby as clerk, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And Tabitha, if you can just fill Steve in, you have somebody that you're trying to hire to take minutes, right?
Yes.
Is that correct? So he won't have to take minutes once that person is hired?
No, and that should be shortly, so I'll follow up with you after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, I guess then we can get back to the schedule of the agenda as printed. And that first item is a site plan review for Site 17-01, 379 Old Colony Road, David Rossi. He's looking to develop a one-story commercial building housing one employee for technology-based business at approximately 5,000 square feet in the commercial district. Is Mr. Rossi here? Come on up, please, Mr. Rossi.
If I might,
Certainly.
Chair. Just to direct the board to your documents in the binder, there is a review that we've compiled to give you some background and information on this application, kind of in the standard format that I conduct the reviews for new members. Basically, it lists the background of the project and then goes through the general articles that we're reviewing it under and if it meets or is asking for waivers, et cetera. And then at the end, there are issues and comments compiled by town department heads that have gotten back to me. And you'll see that there are attachments, including his application, a letter, drainage scheme proposals A and B, and an alternative parking scheme per zoning. If you have any questions, let me know.
Please, Mr. Rossi, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for letting me come in and present this. Kind of watch a few YouTube videos on how this all works, but this is new to me, so
It's new to three of us. too,
Okay,
so
that's
get
good.
comfortable.
that's good to know. Yeah, so I'm not sure where to start. What I did was I submitted the overall plan, the site plan, and then, going through the checklist here on what is on the plan and what's not on the plan. Do we just go through these and discuss, or I'm not sure how this typically works?
Well, basically, he's requesting site plan review, and he has requested a couple of waivers in the letter. Those are to the traffic and parking lot plan, the landscaping requirements, and the outdoor lighting plan. And there's a number of comments on that, as far as I'm concerned, but the board is welcome to ask you
Okay.
directly.
Can you just give us the background of the operation of the business, the existing structure today, if that's a house, or if it's something else?
Okay.
And just the overall intention?
Okay, well, the intention is to put a one-story, 5,000 square foot building in the back of the yard. It's just a fraction over an acre of lot. What's on the site now is roughly a 900 square foot, it looks like a Cape house, but it's actually a commercial building. The electrical panel's all commercial, it's 20 amp circuit throughout. And it was used as such from what I look back, I guess they started in 1950, the nursing home there, and it was used as an office building at that time. What I'm looking to do is to put this 5,000 square foot building behind that and to use it as an operation for my circuit business that I own. I've been in business, Precision Circuit is the name of the company. I've been in business by myself now for it's about 5 years now. I had been involved in some prior companies, prior to this, larger companies. Made the decision that that's not for me anymore, and I'm on my own now and have been for some time. Made the decision that it was time to stop paying rent and leasing space, and as I've been doing in Taunton for the last 5 years, and wanted to move the business to Norton. I've been a Norton resident for about 23 years now, and knew that the property was up for sale, and came down, talked to people at Town Hall, found out if the business could fit in that location. I got the okay, yeah, we can do this, and that's why I'm here now, looking to develop it as such.
When did you purchase the property?
We closed just before Christmas
Okay.
of this past 2016.
Can you just describe what you're gonna, like the Cape House in the front?
Mhm.
Looks like it's in rough condition.
It
You're
looks,
asking-
oh, I'm
you're
sorry.
asking for a waiver on the landscaping, when in fact, there's practically none there, so it would be nice to see what you plan to do to make it look more presentable
Yeah,
than it is now. And then what are you gonna do for a driveway to access the building in the back?
Well, I keep
No.
cutting you off, I'm sorry. As far as the building, it's funny because my comments on that question kind of are twofold. To address the landscaping, it's all overgrown now, and it needs to be completely cleaned up. It's been overgrown for a while now. In trying to take a look at gathering some information to discuss the request for waiver for the parking, I went doing some research on the internet, and I found some photographs of the property of 2012, and it looked really nice. I mean, it's really because it's been overgrown now for a number of years, and that's why it looks the way it does. So certainly I want to go in and clean it and improve the way it looks. The house does look rough. Structurally, the house is in nice condition. I mean, nice. It's structurally sound, let's say that. But yeah, obviously, I want to go in and improve the appearance of everything. I just, from the standpoint of the requirements for landscaping and such, I didn't want to be tied to anything. And so that's why I just wanted to say, hey, is it possible to get a waiver, keep things basically the way they are right now, and do overall maintenance on everything, and bring it up to a presentable level. As far as and why I say this was kind of twofold with this part of the discussion, as far as the parking and driveway, that's one of the things I was looking for a waiver for. And the reason for that is I'm the only employee of this company, okay? For the last 6 months, I've been in and out of there. I've been working. It's just me. When we took a look at this with the engineer, we looked at the Norton bylaws, and there's a whole table, a structured table as far as how many lots are needed for different building applications on the premises, and it goes by how many square feet. I'm sure you're aware of it. And roughly speaking, I guess there can be an argument made either way, but roughly speaking, if you look at the square footage of the building and then the proposed building, we'd probably need something like 8 spots, okay? Which is, excuse me for a second, which is overkill, really.
So, David, to ask a question, and I just wanted to verify, so you submitted the attachment showing the parking scheme just to, because,
Yeah, and that's where I was going with this now, is the reason for attaching what we did was pretty much to just show the planning board for the site review that the lot can handle that. I mean, we can design into that to meet the requirements of the bylaws, that, yeah, okay, we can put 8 lots on this plan. But again, there's really no need for it. And one of the things that I had looked at, when the engineer came up with this design, I'm looking at it and saying, well, by doing this, we're adding almost 10,000 square feet of impervious area with driveway. And again, for no reason. It's not needed. And just to educate myself, I've been trying to get a background and understand everything with the Massachusetts stormwater requirements. And there's such an emphasis on low-impact development and doing things so that way you're not, just tearing things up. I kind of think it makes sense not to do that. But again, I wanted to show that it can be done and meet the zoning requirements.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You mentioned fixing up the existing structure that was there.
Mhm.
What would it be used for? Would you be looking to lease out that space to another business in the future?
I'm looking at it right now to use as basically an office for myself.
Okay, so it would be essentially an office and a warehouse for you solely.
Yes.
It's small. So
Is that where is the existing building currently where your operation takes place with,
A portion of it, yes. Yes.
okay.
So the building being built is going to be used to store?
It's going to be used for storage,
Okay.
and it's going to be used for part of the operation of some of the work I do. Right now, I mean, there's so little in the small building. Even doing things by myself, everything's done by hand and tedious. I've got some small wire cutters and wire strippers and different small tools like that I need. That's what I need this building for. I'm operating very inefficiently right now just because of the circumstances.
My question would be, as far as, shipping things out, is it something that, eventually you're going to grow a little more and you're going to need that paved area?
Well, and that's part of it, and I'm not looking to grow at this point, at this stage of my life. As I said, I was part of a larger company before, and the whole idea of employees and growth and everything that goes, I'm not interested anymore. I've been there, done that.
I don't know, I said the same thing once.
Especially in this industry, it's just a very volatile industry, and in all honesty, then it was eight different employees, and having 8 different families, and their well-being hinging on what you were doing and how you were developing business, I just not interested anymore. My interest here is to operate by myself as I have been, be able to eventually just keep building equity in my own piece of property rather than paying someone a lease to somebody else. My wife and I discussed this, and it's kind of like a retirement idea, is we invest into this building and, you know, in the future, whenever.
Do you have deliveries, shipments of materials, outgoing?
Yeah, that's the thing, again, you know, I had a lot of discussions with the building inspector to try to explain the business, because his first question is, what do you need 5,000 square feet for? And the reason for the 5,000 square feet is twofold. It is, number one, probably need a quarter of that for the operation of what I need to do. And the other part of it is just for storage, for just personal stuff and things. I figured I could put that in the building. And the other part is, I ran into a lot of difficulty when I kind of got pushed out of where I had been for about a 7-year period. And I had a lot of difficulty finding a building in that 5,000 square foot footprint, okay? There wasn't a lot on the market. You go into the big industrial parks, everything's huge, everything's 30, 40, 60, 70,000 square feet. And you never find it set up so that way it's just a small unit that is enclosed and secure and you can operate a small business out of. So that's one of the reasons is kind of picked this number 5,000 because again, looking down the road, figuring it could be a marketable property someday when we're ready to close up and move on with retirement. So that's one of the ideas for the size. As far as what you're asking with deliveries and such, the business operates, I probably receive UPS 2 days a week, a UPS package 2 days a week, maybe 3 days a week. Outgoing, maybe once a week, and I hand carry it to Staples over at Mansfield Crossing.
Okay, so there's no trucks coming in to pick up?
In the 7 years, I've never had a pickup truck dock delivery or shipment.
For UPS deliveries now to the site, do they just pull in the driveway, back out the road? Do they park on the street?
I actually haven't had
Haven't had
UPS
any
show up over
at-
there.
At there yet? Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the proposed building? Is there a layout, is there a plan, is there a picture, elevation plan that we could see? It just says, 1-story,
Yeah,
metal
you know
building,
what?
but to get a
I-
visual of that.
I don't. I apologize. I should have brought something like that, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I don't think I did. Wait a minute.
Well, your question is to keep the driveway as existing?
That's what I'd like to do. And
As far as UPS coming in and deliveries getting to the building, is there gonna be any kind of plan as far as extending that back to the building, the current driveway, or?
Or the box is small enough.
everything's
Yeah.
small. Everything is, that's just it. Everything is just hand carry in and out.
Well, you're looking for that plan, and I appreciate that you're, trying to keep your costs manageable, and particularly in light of the fact that you don't need an awful lot in terms of facilities. But first question to ask you, has it passed Title V? Will the existing septic system have to be replaced?
I don't know. I don't know. It went, whatever was required when I purchased it,
I assume you didn't finance it then?
no.
All right. Again, given the age of the building, I'd be very surprised if the septic system doesn't have to be replaced. And I mention that only in terms of what that's going to do to, the front yard, if you will. And also the existing driveway, I imagine, I don't want to assume anything, whatever you get, is it all going to be hand carried to the building?
Yes.
And at least this plan shows the turnaround is partially on another lot, which obviously isn't gonna work. And if that one UPS truck a month shows up, how's it gonna turn around?
Well, I think there's enough room in the turnaround for him if he showed up. But I mean, I guess I'd have to
Somewhat
work with him to
doubtful.
find
I'm,
out.
I'm just, again, I haven't scaled it, but it's 33, roughly 34 feet to the building, and I'm guessing that's about
Yeah, less than half.
24 feet to the property line. I don't see how a truck can, a UPS van can turn around, and we certainly can't have it backing out onto 123.
Yeah, no, that's, yeah,
So-
that wouldn't work.
I think that's something that we'd have to have your engineer draw up, that in fact there is an ability to have a, albeit a smaller truck turn around. And here again, I know you don't want to submit a landscaping plan, but we'd have to have, I think as part of a site plan approval, some sense that the property is going to be approved and improved with some landscaping, particularly if the front end ends up being torn up to replace the septic system, if that's where it's going to go. The other concern would be, if that system is not suitable, where in fact would the septic system go? Would it have to go where your planned driveway is? So there's some questions, and again, not trying to make your life difficult.
No, I
but,
understand.
I want to make sure that you end up with something that's going to work, and, the town ends up with something that isn't going to be problematic.
I think my thought would be, you mentioned this is kind of something that you would look to sell in the future to another commercial business. My thinking is that future commercial business may not be just one person, may have a number of employees that need to get back there. And then when you go to sell it, they're kind of left to do all of that in terms of how that would be occupied and used and what that would create in terms of that situation in the long term.
Yeah, I had the same thought, if this property is sold and it sells into another commercial enterprise and they have multiple employees, then you need a parking lot. But maybe that's something we can condition, so that if the property is sold and it's ever used at another time for something else, we can, make that a condition of whoever occupies it in the future, that they put in the appropriate 8 parking spaces.
Well, it's not gonna be tied to the water or the sewer either, so that might be something as well.
Yeah, that's another issue too, yeah. But that would be on the part of the purchaser. But we could probably condition the parking issue, I would think.
Yeah,
But here again,
just because there's no access out any other way, so.
Yeah.
it would have to show, at least conceptually, that it fits, particularly in the light of the fact that you may have to replace that septic system. So I think that's information that we're gonna need to move this thing forward. A, show that the parking will fit, which 8 spots clearly would, but where it would go in light of the potential for a replacement of the septic system. Maybe you'd have to reverse everything, put the driveway on the right and septic system on the left. I have no idea.
Okay,
Is that a stipulation we can add as well as far as the
Well,
Title V?
That's something to discuss in a later time.
Well, I think we need to know that before we can finally act on this.
Yeah, I'd like to see a presentation of the building too, to make sure it's at least consistent with the dance studio next door.
yeah, the building, I can just verbally give you a little bit. The building, there's a number of different OEMs that I've been discussing with, Morton, Perka. They're all basically the same type of metal building structure. We've been looking at anywhere between a 12 and 14-foot eave height, and then all the, what necessary, ratings for this area. But it's basically just, yeah, I mean, it is very consistent with the dance studio, actually.
Yeah, I think it would help to have at least a
Yes,
a
certainly.
rendering of that.
Certainly.
Just to give us a perspective as to how it will look.
Yep.
What the intent, is of that structure. It does, say, on the plan, no water, no sewer services into the building, so just power, heat, I don't know, air conditioning, I don't know what your plan is.
Yeah, I am gonna have to put air conditioning. It's kind of a requirement for the industry.
Okay.
Again, in terms of guidance for your next meeting with us, unless other folks have some additional stuff, I, for one, would like to see a determination that the septic system does not have to be replaced. Not that that's part of our bailiwick, but if that system does have to be replaced, then the driveway may have to change. But regardless of where the driveway ends up, I'd like to see that the driveway is capable of turning something like a UPS truck on premises as opposed to backing out. That you show the potential for 8 parking spaces, notwithstanding the fact we may not require it initially. Would like to see some type of landscaping. There's precious little there now other than, wild grass. Again, not looking for a golf course, but, something that dresses up the property as part of the site plan approval.
Yeah, I agree. David, where the turnaround is today, there's a large metal cover, almost looks like it's a septic cover of some, is that where the septic tank is?
No, I believe the septic tank is in the center
In the
of the
center
front yard, yeah.
Do you know what that,
I do not know. I just actually noticed that, myself, in walking around. My son and I were walking around, and he said, "What's this?" And I don't know what that is. So I figured I need to go to the water department to try to find out, and get an as-built and find out what that,
for the board, it's right at the top side of the turnaround, inside the property line. And it's gotta be a 24-inch cover anyway.
yeah, I'd say that.
It's metal. Makes me think it's either water or sewer or something like that.
Okay, sewer, there's no.
If it's sleep board, probably sewer.
Yeah.
Well, there's no
Well,
sewer
I-
on
my-
120.
It's state-owned,
that-
it's a state-owned roadway, so.
And that might also
It's a
affect
septic,
parking.
yeah, he's on septic, so.
Yeah, I think you need to know what that is
Mhm,
too.
mhm.
Is there any issues with this driveway extending across the lot line, as it shows on the drawing? As a, does that need to be addressed?
That's pretty
Well, that,
common.
sorry?
Yeah.
I see that kind of thing all the
This was all one
time.
property at one
Right.
time.
Okay.
Including the dance studio, David's property, and the property
And the
next
one
door
next
was
door.
all
Okay.
one piece at one time.
I think for our purposes, though, we can't show it on an approved site plan, because that, in essence, is authorizing you to use someone else's property as part of the site plan. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, there was we had an agreement as part of the purchase and sale and finally with the closing, that I would be removing the part that is over the lot line.
So-
Once we got started
Okay.
with construction, the owner was just what we agreed to at the
You would want to
time.
note that on the plan.
Noted on the
Put a little
plan?
Yeah.
call out on the plan.
Okay,
Yeah, we'd need to see that, and that'd have to be a condition,
and just refer to the purchase and sale, whatever the document was.
Doesn't have to be really descriptive, but.
Okay.
Are there
Okay,
other
I think that,
questions or?
yeah, I'm okay
The,
with what you guys have suggested.
At the back of the property, the wood line's really heavy. It's old, but it's really thick.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's any, it certainly doesn't go back to the Crow Farm Village. I don't think there'd be any impediments over there or any issues over there. Because there's no property, you go all the way through to Crow Farm.
Yeah, you know what, I looked at, I think there's like I think there's a Crow Farm buffer, or I think there's something in between there. But the lot line, there's like a stone wall back there, and it's pretty heavily treed before you get to the stone wall, yeah.
Oh, is this, I don't know if that's the stone wall.
So Tabitha, obviously, the requirements are based on what a typical 5,000 square foot building would need as far as parking and lighting and landscaping, correct?
Correct.
So,
What's the front building in terms of the total square footage?
okay. And so he's basically asking for a waiver because it's only gonna be a one-person operation or maybe, a few more or whatnot. So that's really what the gist of this request is. Is that correct? Do you have any reservations at all about it?
Well, he has asked for 3 waivers, so there are 3 parts of that review that he doesn't, so he has said, he's why, and that's what he's explained.
Yeah, the waivers are, traffic and parking is one, landscaping is another,
And
and outdoor lighting is the third.
Correct. The additional layer on top of this is the new stormwater bylaw that I brought to the board's attention in the review document. And if that can be administrated, if that can be an administrative approval because he's disturbing less than an acre, then I can work it out between myself and David Rossi. We might need peer review based on what the board wants to do as far as a direction, but I would have to condition something regarding that.
But as far as the requirements and, you know, why they're in place and the fact that his use is not gonna be a typical 5,000 square foot, you know, demand on the property, then you're okay with, you know, in concept with his request for the waivers?
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're the expert, so put you on the spot.
Regarding the lighting, because we didn't discuss the lighting.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask on.
Yeah, again, I guess it depends on what I'm forced to show in the plan is it being able to handle. It's not gonna be a big parking lot with overhead lights. I figured just, you know, wall-mounted lights over the doors of the building would suffice, you know, pointed down. I don't know if,
Somewhat tied to the parking, so if you had to do the 8 spots, you'd need more.
Now, this isn't open to the public, you're not open shop.
no, there's no foot traffic in it all.
Would there
Never.
be any signage in the front?
There's no, I mean, if you required that I have it to identify it, fine, but there's not necessary. I don't need it.
The only other thing that occurs to me, in light of, you know, something that Ed raised, you know, 10 years from now, you can sell this property and someone else from a commercial standpoint goes in there, they will not have to go through anything. But if in fact you've got doors, loading doors on your building in the back, just for whatever reason, even though you have no intention of using it, that may be an issue. It would, going forward when this successor takes over. So it'd be good to know where your doors are on the building, particularly if you're just, protect yourself, going to have loading doors in any way that might affect your others, that it be shown on here, if you understand what I'm.
I don't, but I mean, I certainly can provide, I mean, sort of what I'm
Right
thinking.
now, you're 105 feet away from the Crow Farm open space, and it looks like that's about a 100-foot buffer. So you're a couple 100 feet away from residential. There's no loading doors in the back, that's no big deal. But if, for whatever reason, just to protect your resaleability of the property, you decide to put, I'm gonna put my 8 parking spaces in the back, I'm gonna put a loading door in the back, then that has a different impact on the neighborhood than no loading doors in the back and your primary entrance is in the front, if you understand what I'm trying to get to.
Okay, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I don't really understand the ins and outs of why that would be, but that's fine, if that's if that's the
Only
way it
because
is.
your successor will not have to come back to this or any other planning. board.
Okay,
And
When you close up and retire.
because it's an existing building, an existing business.
okay, I understand what you're saying. So you want me to meet those requirements ahead of time?
Well, it's not so much meeting the requirements, if there are no doors in the back, it's
No,
moot.
it's not an issue.
And if someone decides to put one in later, then that's another process that they'll
Okay.
have to go through.
Well, actually, not for loading, but I was thinking of putting a door in the back. So is that gonna present an issue that I need to
Well,
address
you know,
somehow?
if it's a man door versus a roll-up overhead door type of thing. I think it goes back to the building and a rendering of that. What-
Okay.
You know, what do the elevations look like on either side? Where are the doors? Just one man door in the front? Is there a garage door? Anything on the sides or the back?
Okay.
Just to give us that understanding.
Sure.
And to Joe's point, if there's nothing in the back side, it's just a, metal wall, there wouldn't be any requirements.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I was planning on putting a door in the back, so is there something I should do, again, with an engineer to present this to you in a certain way for next time, or?
Again, speaking,
Indicate the type.
Okay,
Again, call out.
okay.
And if you're going back and forth between a couple of different designs, then you can bring pictures of both.
Yeah, like you brought the 2 schemes for the drainage.
Mhm.
You bring several schemes.
Okay.
So, just from my learning here, how does this work now? Will Mr. Rossi get like an email from you stating the minutes and what he just needs to come back with for follow-up? And if he does that, he's just good to go to proceed with a vote, just to make sure?
I'm under the impression we're looking to continue this?
I would imagine we
Well,
would
we'll-
continue, yeah.
We will continue, but I think,
Oh, I know we're continuing, but for his benefit, how will he make sure that he addresses everything that's been brought up? Will we document this for his assistance so that?
I think he's been taking very good notes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I generally follow up with the applicant,
Okay,
and
great.
I'll
Thank you
email
for
them.
that.
Yeah,
That's part of my everyday
perfect.
communication.
Because we don't
We've
want,
been in communication,
Yeah,
haven't we?
yeah. And but
It's come in a
it's
few
just-
times, so.
Well, and the thing is too, again, this is the first time I've done something like this, and I'd like to be able to minimize the interactions with the engineers, just so I can tell them one time, hey, this is what we gotta do, and, you know.
and it probably costs money every time.
Exactly, exactly. And again, it's a small, it's a small operation.
but to your point, and I think for your benefit, to the extent that I can try to encapsulate what we think we're asking you for next time around, working backwards, we'd want to see any entrances or exits from the building. And any lighting associated with those entrances. I know you're asking for a waiver, but whatever lighting you do have, we'd like to see drawn on the plan.
Okay?
A driveway and a proposed parking area for 8 spots, notwithstanding the fact that I'm sensing we're not going to require you to put 8 spots in, but we at least need to show where they're going to go. The driveway and parking, whatever you are going to do, has to accommodate the ability for a truck to turn. And I think central to that is the status of that septic system, because if that's gonna move, that's gonna change things for you. And then lastly, some type of, if you will, commitment. I don't personally, I don't know about others, but I don't think we're looking for a full-fledged landscape architect design, but some type of indication that the property is going to be, if you will, spruced up from a landscaping perspective.
Yeah, it's funny because it's amazing what the overgrowth does to your perception of it too, because these photographs I saw from 2012, the lot actually looked pretty nice. Everything just was manicured, and it's just as it is. So, no, I hear what you're saying, and I can definitely do something.
To add to that cover that you had mentioned.
Yeah, I think you need to invest.
Yeah, I do. I
It's
just,
going to impact whatever you do for a driveway.
If
And
I-
again, a visual rendering of the building structure elevations.
Yep.
I did want to ask, because there was the plan that showed 8 parking, who designed this, or who
that
drew
came
this
from
up?
RIM,
Okay,
RIM.
okay. So there was the plan that was included that had the 8 proposed, one more sheet.
Yeah.
Well, what we
Whether
did,
that's feasible depends on the septic and
Yeah.
5 other things.
If I can just add to the landscape plan, because you mentioned the overgrowth, if you can jot some notes on there for an operation and maintenance schedule.
okay.
And when do we want to continue this to, and how much time do you think you'll need?
I will start with this tomorrow. I mean, as quickly as we can. If you give me some deadlines as to when you need stuff to get, to readdress this. If
Our
we-
next meeting would be 2 weeks from today, the 16th, if that would allow enough time to obtain all of that information and, make sure Tabitha has that.
When would you need it? Do you know when you would need it in for? As far as what I would need to provide you?
A week,
Okay?
generally, yeah.
Yep.
So.
So if that's
We
acceptable,
just have a hearing for chickens on the 16th, so.
I'm sorry?
The only other hearing we have on the 16th is chickens.
That's a 2-hour
Chickens.
discussion.
It's at a
Is that
condo.
scheduled for a
It's at
time?
condo. Yes, it is. It has a hearing time.
Of what?
7:25,
All right, so
or 7:20, sorry.
if we were to schedule Mr. Rossi, I don't want to be optimistic here, but for 7:45,
7:45?
is that going to work?
We can do it as short as 10 minutes after the, the first one, if you want to, or do you want to be more realistic?
I want to be more realistic because again, I don't want people waiting for something for an hour,
Sure,
and we can always fill in.
We can
with
fill in
other
with
stuff.
other
yeah.
business.
So if 7:45, 2 weeks from today works for you?
We'll make it work.
We continue the site plan review for 379 Old Colony Road to May 16th,
7:45?
7:45 PM.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion.
Second.
Motion.
Right, there's been a motion, it's been seconded. All those in favor of the motion to continue to 7:45 on the 16th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you, I'll follow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you
Thanks
very much.
for your time.
Report of the Planning and Economic Development Director.
So under tab B in your binders, you'll find the report of the Planning and Economic Development Director, that's me. So I put this together for you every meeting, as well as the email I send you just for what's coming up. Current applications in process, as we know, we have the site plan review. We just talked to David Rossi, so skip that one. The next one we'll be looking at is a special permit site plan review for 8890 East Hodges Road. That's keeping chickens. It's at a condo, so the applicant is the condo association, but it's a small condo association.
Interesting.
It is interesting, just wanted to put that in there. So those are all on Dropbox, and the notice went out today, or yesterday, I'm sorry. Decisions that have been filed are also on Dropbox, so there's PDFs in there that you can check out. There's a minor modification for Mary Jo Estates that went through a little while ago that you see. The 20-day appeal period ends on the 4th, and then there's 3 special permits that end on the 15th, and that's Ryder Truck, Norton Self Storage, and East Hodges Shared Driveway that were just decided. And then Construction Administration, Wheaton Solar, looking to arrange a conference call with the owners, project managers. We've been going back and forth, I CC'd one of you on that, about getting the landscaping, the remaining landscaping done. I see some heads nodding, so maybe you were following that. In Oak Hill multifamily, there's just ongoing construction inspections, and there's an update on the septic install. So Beta is doing the construction inspections.
What does BETA stand for?
The Beta Group, I don't know what Beta stands for.
What is it- what is
They're an
it?
engineering multidisciplinary firm.
Town's peer review.
Oh, it's the town's engineering firm?
Right.
For peer-
One of the ones we use.
Okay. All right, thank you.
New England Ice Cream, we're getting peer review on the detention pond, the sound wall and landscape buffer, so they're actually making modifications to the pond. There was some drainage issues. Then they're gonna we'll send the peer review site inspection out again, and they'll inspect everything with the sound wall that's been completed, the landscaping, and hopefully get some release on the surety there. So I've been working with Campanelli on that. And then Alnylam, they're still working on the building, as far as I know. There hasn't been much site work. So then other planning news, I went to the Serpent Commissioners meeting, so there's a lot going on in transportation projects, regional economic development plans, and there was a lot of talk about South Coast Rail. Tri-Town Chamber of Commerce had a forum last Friday, and Mike presented on behalf of Norton, and we talked about interesting local economic development initiatives, like the Foxborough Master Plan just won an APA award, which was interesting. And then just some upcoming workshops and trainings. As you see here, is the SERPED annual meeting is on May 24th. June 6th is an affordable housing workshop. And we are continually updating our social media, so everyone at home, please stay tuned.
Just getting back to the Tri-Town meeting where the Foxborough Master Plan was discussed.
Yeah.
Is there any indication of cost?
Yeah, and actually, this is something we've talked about. It's something like 250.
That's what Foxborough ended up paying?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not entirely sure, but, yeah. But they did say it all started with a farmer's market downtown,
Master plan?
which is low-hanging fruit. No, with revitalizing their town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And a farmer's market is very low-hanging fruit. You put a farmer's market in, people go downtown, they know you have a downtown, they feel the energy. It's something that's,
So
It's a good idea.
Gillette and Patriot Place took second.
well, yeah,
place
you
to,
know, the Patriots, whatever.
to farmer's market, okay.
Gotta eat first.
Yeah, I guess, huh?
Can you just update us on the sureties that we had on Wheaton? I know we had one for longevity on the plantings, and then I think we had another one for potential use this spring, after, if any issues come up. I think there's two, right?
There was a bunch, because there's several that are going to abutters. Did you see the letter that I
Right.
sent today?
Yes.
Yeah, that was the one residence that they were going to work with to install additional plantings.
Well, we have a
Yeah.
surety for that.
Yeah,
think
but there's
we do,
several
yeah.
pots, because there's some that are, they're giving directly to abutters for the plantings, and
Mm-hmm.
then some have to go on that property. But I have a letter that outlines it all. I can send it to you.
Okay.
I should have brought it tonight.
Okay, next on the agenda, planning board business and policies. We've done, for better or worse, reorganization. Anything else that
For
anybody?
better, for better.
Time will tell. Anything else that any of the members want to bring up, or,
Actually,
please?
town meeting on Monday. We need someone to represent the planning board to present. It can be myself, or it can be a member of the board.
Are you gonna be there? John?
I'll be here. I can, we'll compare notes.
Okay.
Approval of minutes. We had two sets, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. Start with the
Let's see.
321?
Yeah,
March 21?
321 is the first long one, and then,
That's
The long
the
one.
short novel.
yes.
Given the three of us were not on the board for those meetings, should we assume that we're abstaining?
You'll-
You
yes.
abstain or vote present?
You'll vote present when we vote. Yeah. So on the March 21 minutes, page 2, at least on my copy, third paragraph from the bottom, proposed article language. Delete the word "to" at the end. It says, change to the zoning map "to" from industrial to residential.
Oh,
Sorry, that was just a grammar thing there.
thank you.
On page 4, the paragraph that starts with Walter Remendowski. Lines 2 and 3, there's the section that says, did not want their land changed from commercial to residential. It is industrial, so did he say that it was commercial? Because technically it was an industrial lot, I don't know if that needs to be corrected or not, but that was the proposal, was to change it from industrial to residential, and it just listed in there as commercial. Yeah, again, I don't know if that's what the gentleman said, going back now a couple months-ish,
We could put like commercial, industrial.
Parentheses.
in parentheses, industrial, yeah. Page 18, the final paragraph. Third line down, it says they are bringing it to the townspeople in Norton to see, receive their input. I think we can just delete C. Oh.
Other corrections, additions, deletions? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the minutes for March 21st as amended?
Motion to accept as is?
Is there a
Second.
second?
Second?
Second.
All right, we'll do a roll call because this can't be unanimous. Tim?
Steve?
Steve, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Tim. Steve? Your vote is
Abstain.
present.
Oh, I have to abstain.
Present.
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 Frank?
Yes.
Kevin?
What's the difference between abstain and present? I've never used present before.
One and
I'm
the
gonna
same.
abstain, because I wasn't present. I was.
You're
but-
present for this.
Present.
Oh,
Present for the vote.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're one and the same.
I like abstain, I'm gonna
Okay,
abstain.
we'll make them both abstain. I'll vote yes,
I'll vote yes.
Yes.
Present.
present, or abstain. Okay, so
Abstain or abstain?
the minutes are approved
Did I say odd?
on a
Well, no, I used to say of, but it's.
4 to 0 to 3. And then there was April 4th.
Have an item on page 3 of the minutes. Second paragraph from the bottom, starting with Steve Hayes, architect. Third line down, the sentence, through many discussions, lighting, sidewalk construction, and making most efficient use. I imagine that should be efficient. Okay. I don't know if you want other little grammatical things.
Well, you did the
If-
work.
If
You did it, you read
Page
it.
4, about halfway down, there's a M.R. Larson, Mr. Larson.
Oh.
Just to correct that. Page 5, second paragraph, just Mr. Larson said he'd, just missing the apostrophe. For he'd be happy. Page 6, there's just a bunch of misspellings on last names. My last name, Joanne's last name were just misspelled. There's no S in my name, and you added an S to hers, I guess, so.
I talked to her about this, and I've edited. It's like, I cannot get the two names straight. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Obviously,
I'm not a Smith,
Polish.
so, you know.
Yeah.
And the last line on page 6, the final sentence there. Mr. Durant says, so Tabitha, you would recommend there would want more trees up front.
They
Did
would.
I say they would or they would?
They would.
They would, yeah.
Yeah, recommend they would, right? Okay.
I said there.
I think it's page 8, a couple more misspellings of Harris, last name. And one more for me, page 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth paragraph from the bottom, starting with Mr. Brennan said he put together a table. I wanted to just confirm these numbers, just to make sure that it's correct as written. During a 2-year storm, it's almost 900,000 cubic feet or 67,000 gallons. Then 10-year storm is 83,000 gallons, and a 25-year storm, it goes to 75,000. In my head, I think that those numbers should have been reversed, you know, that the 25-year
Yeah.
storm should have a greater volume of water than a 10-year storm. So, in terms of what the numbers were, I don't recall what numbers were stated, but it would seem to me that the 25-year would generate a larger volume than a 10-year
We can
storm.
check on it.
So, just to clarify that, and that goes to 195,000, so. And that's all for me.
Anyone else? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the minutes as corrected?
Motion
For
to approve as corrected?
April 4th,
Second.
there's a second. Tim?
Steve.
Abstain?
Steve abstains. Frank?
Yes.
Kevin?
Abstain?
I'll vote yes. Steve?
I will vote yes.
Yes.
Ed?
Abstain.
All right, passes 4-0-3.
Bills.
Bills and warrants.
That's just who I'm saying.
Joe, that's
Joe,
for
oh.
signatures.
All right, we have presented a listed payables amounting to $6,091.27. Part of which, 25, just for the new members, $2,565 is review money that is paid for by, in this case, Norton Self-Storage. The other two expenses are out of the planning board budget. Are there any questions?
I just have one question on, so we have one more review with Norton Self-Storage, right?
Under that,
Not in this 2,500, but isn't there one more review scheduled?
before they go to before construction, there should
Before
be
he
a
gets-
pre-construction meeting, and then we'll set up a peer review account for construction, site inspection. We'll put more money in there.
He's supposed to do just some things correcting, though. There was some things on drainage on the ends of the buildings. They were supposed to go from 3 feet to 5 feet.
Right.
Right, and
Some
all those
stuff
things need to,
outside.
it's all conditioned in the, he has to have those inspected, correct? And he would have to pay for that if
Oh, all right.
outside of this.
Okay.
Okay.
One question, on the payable sheet, if Norton Self-Storage is paying for that, should there be a section for receivables, so you can see the wash, so
We
it doesn't
keep-
appear
We
that?
keep that accounting, and actually Joe has that,
Okay, oh, okay,
but I don't give the entire board everything.
no, that's fine.
Stuff.
Well, just so, because it appears that we're paying for it out of your budget, because we don't see the receivables from them for the equal amount.
I see. Yeah, I can make that information available in the future.
Yeah, as long as it's
Because
not
it
too
is,
lengthy.
it's part of the packet that he has. We have to keep it
Mm-hmm.
for each peer review account, so.
Yeah, do we have to vote on this, apparently?
We will have
We
to
will,
vote
yeah.
on
Okay.
it.
Yeah, just so we see so when we're voting on the complete, transaction, receivables and payables. Otherwise, we could vote on this and it can be interpreted that you're paying for this out of your budget. Because there's nothing else,
There's a different number, and I know you wouldn't know the, but yeah, you're right. I can give you that information.
That's why I wanted to mention that in fact it wasn't part of the.
Yes, thank you.
I understand your point. Are there any other questions or comments?
No.
If not, I'll entertain a motion to,
I move to approve the bills and warrants for May 2nd in the amount of $6,091.27 as provided.
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. And it looks as though,
So we have to do, we got meetings through May, but I don't think we have anything for June, right?
The only official meeting we have is the 16th. We haven't discussed past then, so.
May 16th, right.
And then I was just assuming bi-weekly after that.
I think the initial, or the regular schedule was first and third
first and third.
of the month.
So the 6th
We
and
would always
20th.
confirm, everybody's schedules to
When-
make sure we have quorums.
Right. Isn't the special election on the 6th?
Oh, for the selectmen?
Good.
yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, so we can't meet the 6th.
I think it's the 6th, right?
Yep, it's the 6th, it's the June 6th.
Attaboy.
Special election.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Do we want to move either the 13th and 27th, or do back-to-backs 13th and 20th? We can't meet the 6th.
You good either way?
no difference to
I'm okay.
I'm fine.
13th and 27th?
So just to verify then, we're meeting on the 16th, and then after that, we would meet again
13th and 27th?
June 13th?
Right,
That makes
and
sense.
27th, yeah, because the following week would then be the 4th of July.
Exactly.
So then we can meet on July 11th.
So
Okay, and that
back
gets
on
us
the
back to the more normal
First and
schedule.
third.
Okay.
regular-
Well, eventually.
Yeah.
Do we want to set July and
Yeah,
August and
let-
get it over with,
We could.
or are people still making
Well, I think at least-
I
summer
think we were
plans?
just saying that
11th.
the next Tuesday would be July 4th, and knew that we'd be skipping that one probably, so that's as far as, no idea what's happening then.
I can do July 11th.
July 11th is fine.
And the 25th. I can't do
25th.
the previous week. I'm away.
The
The week of the
18th?
16th, I'm away.
Okay. So does that work for everyone, for July 11th and the
and
25th?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, those work. Yes.
Do I have to be at all the meetings? I do have to be at all the meetings.
Yes. Yeah, if you have a conflict, let us know.
June
These are the.
3rd, we said?
no,
13th.
13th.
Okay.
27th.
Why did I, okay. No, we're good.
So you're good on the 13th? All right.
I'm on vacation 4th of July week, so that's all good.
Do we want to go in August, or?
Sure, let's go.
Yeah.
All right, so we're meeting
Since we're
on the
meeting on the
25th,
25th,
8 and the 22nd?
8 and the 22nd seems to be okay.
Yep.
Stop there?
Yeah, I think that's probably
Okay.
good.
So Tabitha, the supermajority requirement for 5 out of 7 for a vote, if you could, like, let us know in advance of any of these meetings, if those votes are on the agendas at all, to make sure that, you know, if somebody's on the fence, who's on vacation, and means having, 6 instead of 5 people at the meeting or whatever, then at least we know ahead of time, so we can,
Any special permit?
It's any
right?
special permit,
Yeah.
and I hope you all get my little chart
Yeah,
and
okay.
all my emails, and
And again,
try to keep you informed.
for the newer members, Norton adopted what is referred to as the Mullen Rule. You can miss a meeting as long as you either watch a video or listen to an audio and review the minutes of that meeting you missed, then you're eligible to vote on that special permit. So if there's a one-time,
And I have the form for it, there's a form for it you have to fill out.
Norton hasn't approved remote participation yet, have they?
It's in the open meeting law.
Right, but it has to be approved by the Board of
It
Selectmen.
does have to be approved through the Board of Selectmen, they have to
Yeah.
go through it.
Not that I'm, advocating for it, I just didn't know. I hadn't heard anything about it. Do you know?
Ed and I heard about it at, when we discussed the open meeting law at the conference, and I said, well, maybe, there's some trepidation about having those kind of,
Yeah, again, not advocating for or against it, I hadn't heard that selectmen had allowed remote participation. Basically, what that allows you to do is be on a conference call and sit in on a meeting and vote remotely, so if you're on vacation. But that has to be approved in advance.
We don't even have the technology yet, do we?
You'd have to have somebody here with a phone and speaker next to a microphone,
Yeah.
essentially.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's the,
Speakerphone?
that's the low-tech way. It would work.
so anytime we see special permit on the agenda or an upcoming, then it requires a
Supermajority.
okay. And if this, rezoning of Leonard Street passes, we can anticipate a lot of those coming up over the next couple of years, I would assume. That's why I bring it up, just to, it's a good thing we have 7 members of the board now.
and I have heard some murmurings about other folks looking to apply for things coming up, so I have a feeling that they're waiting for the board to turn over. But there has been phone calls and things about potential projects, subdivisions, things like that, so.
Subdivisions.
Important?
What?
When was the last one?
I can't remember a brand-new subdivision.
These architects come from millions of miles away, you know?
All right, anything else?
interesting.
If not, I'd
Nothing else.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to
Motion.
adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All righty.